Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Here is Mike Rada, and today I have a great guest to the Industry 5.0 talk. George, or
Hello.
he's from Czech Republic as well, but we will do it in English. And if you ask me what we will talk about, I don't know. So it will be surprise. But I know that George is doing a lot of interesting things. So maybe I will let him to introduce himself first, and then I will come with the first question.
So hello, let me introduce myself. My name is George, and I come originally from Prague, the Czech Republic, Central Europe.
And what are you doing? Because I know you have a lot of things to do, so please just share it.
Thank you. I will start with the most recent project. At this moment, I'm preparing with my colleague a great exposition in Vyšehrad. Vyšehrad is a Kongresové centrum Prague, Czech Republic. This will be an international face-to-face conference for entrepreneurs and business people. And I am co-organizing this event. So this is the thing which I do, networking, podcasting, community building, and besides that, I still like English teaching from time to time. So these four things.
It's a lot of, and if you speak about English and you speak about language, may I ask you, how do you imagine the future of language?
Yes, it's a good question, Michael. Thank you for this question. This is in order to understand the future, I think we should extrapolate back to the past. Yes. So from the trends which we can see in the past, we could maybe predict or forecast the future. And this applies to the weather. This applies to the humankind development. This applies to the sciences development. This applies to the language also. So when you look back, how spoke Anglo-Saxon people in the 11th century. Yes, 1066. Yes, it's 11th century. Anglo-Saxons people in the 11th century, how they spoke English, and then influences of the French, of the German tribes. And then when you look back into the more further into the 20th century and the influences of new words like internet and, as you know well, little bit back, 19th century, the RUR from Karel Čapek. This is a new word in English as well. And many influences so that we cannot possibly predict the future, but we could think maybe there could be some similar development in the future, adding some new words into the language. And yes, also I must not forget the settlements, because English, the British Empire, they spread in the 17th century, 16th century, they spread around the world to India, to Africa, to Asia, to Australia, to different parts of the world, and they conquered and they brought the language with them. So I don't know if I can answer your question because it's so difficult.
If we look back, even more back in a history, the people use signs instead of letters and instead of words. And I feel, looking at the social media, at the response, that the text generally in a verbal form, in a form of consisting of letters, making words, that it's disappearing, and we are coming back to the Stone Age, with one of the differences that we do not use the hammer to make the word in the stone, but we use just the touch of a finger to put an emoji or something similar. Don't you think that this development is not development, but generally a regression of a language as we know it today?
Michael, you are saying very interesting facts. And I must admit, at the beginning, I must say one thing. Yeah? I never studied any sciences at the university about the language. I'm not a studied English teacher. I studied originally agriculture. Not many people know this about me, that I have graduated from the thesis of composting, and this was my diploma thesis, composting, and this was my 7 years at the university where I traveled all around the world with my studies to England, to America, to Turkey, and always I liked teaching. However, I haven't such a great knowledge of the language itself. But what you are saying is true, and I definitely agree with you there with the sign languages, and these notes are very interesting.
Because if I just have a few hours ago, I have a discussion with another interesting new member of the community, and we came to ChatGPT, which is currently in every media, and it says that we should use it. We should let ChatGPT to write for us, to think for us, to do all for us. And you mentioned RUR by Karel Čapek, the founder and inventor of the word robot. And everyone who ever listened or read this book knows that already the man who introduced the word robot to the world was delivering a warning in his book, so as in many others, against the addiction on technology, including such a technology as AI and ChatGPT, which he was not able to name, but he used instead the word robot. And this is why I think that the language and keeping the language in a way as it is today, or in a way where we can really express ourselves personally, which is not an image, it is really words which we put together. It is a very important. So do you use or do you plan to use the tools like ChatGPT in your work?
Yes, Michael, I would like to thank you for this question because this is very interesting for me. And I myself, a great reader of Isaac Asimov, who introduced 4 laws of robotics in his books, in his science fiction books. And he went one step further where Karel Čapek went. Yes, so Isaac Asimov in his books about robots, he went further and he's going a little bit even deeper into this problematics of robots taking over the world and taking over humankind. Yes, but to answer your question, I don't want to digress from your question to our listeners. I would like to say yes, I use it. However, I use it for 2 reasons. First of all, I'm a dyslexic and dysgraphic myself since the childhood, and I make many mistakes in my writing. And if I give for my teaching, I use it only for teaching, I must admit. So only for teaching English, I would say, which questions can I ask to a person who is keen on biking, or he is keen on winter swimming, or which question should I ask for a mother of a child? And this chat gives me 12 questions, which are grammatically correct, which are correct with the spelling. And this is very important for me, and it helps me a lot. So I do use it, and it's helping me a lot, but I use it only for teaching English. So for creating very interesting questions, and I must admit that the GPT chat can make these questions very interesting grammatically and spellingly correct questions for my teaching. And really the students like it. I was surprised. Students like it, and they say, really, George, you came up with the great questions. And I say always, this is not me, this is artificial intelligence. And they say, never mind, let's talk and let's discuss things. And they are really happy with these questions. So yes, it's helping me and I use it.
You are the first one who generally aim or use the questions which has been whom I met, who use AI or ChatGPT to generate the questions for him. You know why I am why I'm curious about it is because for me, question is something which is very personal. And I spent 5 years in a Japanese corporation on a board level. And in this Japanese corporation in logistics, they have one very special methodology how to ask questions generally. They said they are asking this way to get to the core. It's called 5 why. I don't know whether you know this methodology. It's if you say, I broke a machine, I will ask why. You will deliver answer. I will ask for the second time why. You will deliver another answer, and I will ask for the third, fourth, and fifth time. It's generally, I have learned that it's a psychological tool. It's a very unpleasant for me if I'm being asked 5 times why. So I was almost fired from the corporation for, let's say, putting this 5 why in a or a question mark behind whether we should use it or not. So I enjoy the time when I can think about a question, and I like being asked questions, so as ask questions, so both ways. But I spend a lot of time because when I left the corporation and I stayed for the first time on a stage in front of, I don't know, 500, 1,000 people, I don't know, then I was asking there, or I said their following sentence. Why should I waste my time asking 5 times why when I can ask the first time the right question? And despite the fact that my grammar is not perfect and I know it, I prefer to ask really my questions. I know that another technology can develop a lot of those. But you know, I'm all the time when I'm speaking with someone, they said, Michael, these are a heavy question, difficult question. And I said, yes. These are questions which must be difficult because questions should not be easy to be answered. It must be something which is really came from your heart. And I'm not sure if this type of questions can be generated by ChatGPT. Do you have some example of one of such questions which you was happy that it was generated by ChatGPT?
First of all, I must say that I do agree with you that this is dangerous and it poses a threat for the future. However, in my own opinion, this is not imminent. This threat will not be here immediately. It will be here many years later. Yes, and now we should be careful, but we should also take it a little bit easy. Yeah, this ChatGPT. And I will answer your question again, Michael, because I would like to go straight to your question. Yes, I do. I think that, for example, I could do it also, like the chat, but it would take me some time. So basically, what I think is that the chat would be asking the same questions as me, not better. But it would really save me like half an hour of time writing it down. And this time saving is the reason why I'm using it. Time saving and the correction of its correcting its own mistakes. And the thing is, this is very interesting because I play chess, for example, chess game, and there I'm looking at the greatest players against chess computers. Now it's the best is AlphaZero. This is a name of the Google generated chess engine, and this chess engine is the best in the world. Second the best is Stockfish, and these engines are really great, and they are much better than the human players. And this is what has surprised me, and really a little bit afraid of this is that the last engine, the AlphaZero, is learning from itself. And this is really interesting. It's learning from its own mistakes. It's learning from itself. It's not only learning from the current history of games, it's learning from itself and from its own mistakes. And this is really interesting to think about this and be careful because this AI is used, I think, also in industries. And it's also used in warfare for warring, for fighting. So I think we should be a little bit afraid.
I think that I will not use the word little bit. The real issue with the AI and ChatGPT is firstly in the speed of development, because only in this year, so in 6 months of a year, I think at the beginning of the year there was ChatGPT 3. Right now we are speaking about 6, or I even read about 7. So it's fast. The second thing is that it is so convenient, you know. It is so convenient to let someone do the work which you should do or I should do. And everybody says that they do it because they can save the time. And my question is, what do you do with that time? And this is a question which many are very hard to answer, because they don't know exactly what they will do with that saved time. For me, thinking about the question is not wasting a time. It's really make my brain working hard to get all the information which I can, put it together in my head. I said all the time that I have not a standard brain. I have a cube in my brain. This is a transparent cube generally. If you say information, it arrives to my brain and the cube start to turn. And I see not only the 6 sides outside, I see even the sides inside. So it's immediately when you give me a recipe, or my mom give me a recipe for something, she said the recipe, and at the moment when she's telling me, my brain already produced alternatives. That's how my brain works. And this is helped my work as well, to 6-star methodology. It trained my brain to work this way. I don't know how I did, but it works this way. And, you know, it's the humanity and the humans all the time has been somehow addicted to things which make our lives easier. At the very ancient times, when the religion came, it was the God. So you do not have to decide, the God will decide for you. Then it came the technology, came the machine, AI, and so on, politicians, decision makers. So there is a lot of things. But all of that, it's taking you away from the language and from your own freedom to express yourself. You know, I have a speech disorder. You name your, let's call it disorders. I have a speech disorder. And for a long time, I was stuttering. So, and then I went to, I was a guide on a castle, medieval castle, Křivoklát called in Czech Republic. And I have learned that it's not the grammar, but the content of the message which you are handing over. And there was a crazy moment. I was there for a year. I was a guide in Czech, English, and German. And at the end of the year, it was one of the very few castles which has been open over the winter. And there came only one visitor in the winter, in that day. And we went through, instead of half an hour, we spent 2 hours there, which was not a problem. And at the end, he said, Michael, or Mr. Rada, I don't know how he called me. That was the best presentation I ever get. But can I tell you something? And I said, yes, please. And he said, you know, Burg, or the castle in German, is not there. So it's not he, but it's she. It's die Burg. But for 1 year, I was using it completely wrong. The main word which I was using, completely wrong. But everybody enjoyed the content, you know. And this is why, for me, I know I will never be good in a grammar. I like that Microsoft is correcting and internet is correcting somehow some of the words. But I don't let them to change the content. And I will not do it anytime. I hope I will not be pushed to do it anytime. And if I will start to write on a paper again. And you know, yesterday it was exactly 12,277 days since I published my first poem, which generally let me understood how important and strong the language can be.
Yes, I'm interested in reading it. I have one note. I was asked to write my story, my life story, on a blog for some teacher's blog. And first of all, I gave it to the AI, and he wrote the story for me. And then I deleted it, and I sat down and I said, for 3 hours, and I was writing with my own hands and thinking about it, and I wrote it much better. So still there is something which, as you say, which when we make it alone is better. Yeah, because there are the nuances, the jokes, the funny moments, everything which the AI cannot do.
You was born same as me in Czechoslovak Socialist Republic.
Yes.
We live for our young age, we can say we lived in a communist country. We have learned from our parents to read between the lines. But to do so, the messages must be hidden between the lines. And at the moment, no matter what AI work I read, there has been no messages. I call it that we write with our heart. The fingers are just, and the keys, and so they are just the transporters generally, but it's coming from our heart. And in Industry 5.0, we use a language, we call it the language of efficiency. That's from my heart to your heart, and exactly the same goes from you to me. I have a few months ago or half a year ago, I have a very interesting opportunity. I listened to a discussion of AI experts, Czech experts, but they are well known in the world. And it was so interesting that I contacted them after, and two of three generally accepted my invitation. So I started with a talk with one, and he did something very special. He led my keynote presentation, one of my keynote presentations. He let it analyze, he called it my AI. So he has his own AI who analyzes it. And it was very interesting. He sent me the result. So to make it short, the AI said, this guy is crazy, but you should listen to him because he is speaking from his own experience. And it was so interesting statement, which make me think even deeper to really stay with the human and humanity. And I have it on my business card. So, and I will never give it away because, I have so many titles on my business cards, from salesman, key accounts, up to president. Not a single one have, when I express it, I have a goosebumps on my skin every single time when I say, I'm Mike Rada, I'm human. And it is so interesting. And this is, I think, it's connected to humans and humanity. And I am sure you remember Vladimir Smolik space stories.
Yes.
So it's for the listeners from outside, it's a Hungarian comics generally, which was on TV, and it's somewhere 1970s to 1980s.
Yeah.
And he traveled. It was about a boy who traveled to different planets on his inflatable rocket and so on with his dog who was speaking and so on. And there is one very interesting. You can find it on YouTube. There is one very interesting trip. It is to the planet of machines. And on this planet, humans become tools. So human was a hammer. Human was stairs, has been humans, and so on. But the robots rule it. And I would like everyone to recommend to listen to this together with a robot, with RUR, together with Isaac Asimov laws. And generally usually they are used 3, not 4 laws. And I would recommend everyone to even watch these comics because it's expressed, it's in Czech generally or in Hungarian in original probably, but you will not need the words. It's just watching because it's so interesting. So in Czech language, and George knows it, we have a very great saying, which is similar in some languages. We say that fire, it's a great servant, but a very bad master. And we are at a stage where still we can decide whether we will use ChatGPT or AI as a tool or whether we let it master our world and our lives. So that's about the language.
And there's one more thing which I wanted to ask you today, which is not connected. When I had an interview with you before 5 or 6 years, one of your colleagues and friends, Elena, approached me and she said to me, "You forgot to say that Michael plays an instrument. Is it still true? Do you still play?"
Yes, I have a flute here, and I play this flute since because I have a speech disorder, and it was one of the corrective tools to work with my breath. So I learned it. I went to this basic playing school, or I don't know how it's called. And then I stopped playing for many years. And one day I took it out and start to play again. I don't know notes. I don't recognize them. I do recognize whether it's high or low, but that's all. But I play all the time when I need to say something and I do not find the words. And here in the building which I'm sitting in, over weekends there is nobody and there's a great echo. So I'm playing time to time here, or I take it to the forest. And I do it, yes. It's part of the language.
Yes, I must say that this building your room is called workshop or workroom. How it's in English?
I don't know how. I had a struggle to translate the word pracovna into the English, because probably workshop, but it's not the exact translation. You know very well that the Czech language is very special. So we have it's a very difficult language for many, and we have many very different expressions, which are, and including the language. In Czech language, it's called language, it's called jazyk, and it means language or our tongue. So both are there. And if we speak about language, let me ask you, because we are close to the end probably, let me ask you one question. And again, don't expect to be easy one. I found that there is one element in every single language of the world which is same and even sound same. No matter which language you will speak, this will be there. My question is, what is this element?
This is, I will say you which isn't. Yes,
okay.
It isn't the word yes. Because in some Asian countries is like this, in some it's like this, in some it's no. In Czech language, no means yes. It's interesting, and so it's not it. But Michael, I don't know. Sorry, can you tell me, please?
Yes,
because this
I will.
This really
I will, because it's really not an easy question. It's the silence. Because the silence sounds in every language the same, and it's needed if you need to think. Silence will help you to go deeper in these thoughts. And so I realized a few days ago that every single language in the world is connected by silence. So it was really a pleasure to talk with you, George, and I hope that we will repeat it again. I would like to wish you success with all what you do, including the conference and everything. And of course, let me wish you have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, visible, audible, and please protect the language as you do.
Thank you, Michael. Same to you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.